Ready? Are you ready, Kelly?
I'm ready. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
We got Mr. Stephone Paige of the Kansas City Chiefs, former wide receiver. He's coming into the cave. We're going to talk a little bit about his great career and also maybe get his opinion on this Kansas City Super Bowl against the Eagles. He knows that we're rooting for the Chiefs. We're Chief fans
That's
this week.
right.
So, Mr.
Hey,
Stephone Paige, how are you doing, sir?
hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be able to chat a little bit with you and just talk about the big weekend this weekend here in Arizona.
No, awesome. Oh, I'm a big fan. I'm Mike Tag. I was actually showing my co-host Kelly K9. I have your record breaker card, 1985. You signed it for me as a kid. It's still in my box. I brought it out to show him,
What?
so he knows that I'm not playing. I'm a fan of yours and a fan of football.
Wow.
So so
All right.
so I do
Oh, that's
appreciate
cool.
the years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's good to
Yeah.
have
So,
a little history behind it and looking forward to talking tonight about some great things that start to happen this weekend.
Yeah.
yes, Stefan. Just to touch on that, is I saw that when I was looking up some things about you and looking at your career through the NFL. Obviously, as a wide receiver, when you have a game like that, I was surprised that record was broke. It was broke about 4 years later. It seems like a record that would have stood a lot longer than that. It's pretty impressive what you did during that game. Is that one of those games where you're just completely locked in? Was the offensive coordinator, was that game catered around you, or was it just one of those things where you were catching everything that was getting thrown your way and the quarterback was locked
Yeah,
in on you?
yeah, it was one of those games where you say, you know what, I don't think that can go wrong. I feel like you probably could have stuck a hand up, the ball probably was stuck to your hand. It was one of those days to where you go like, you know what, this is special, and you don't really know it until you get at the halftime and you kind of say, Henry Marshall walks up and say, "Hey, you just broke the club record. What's the club record? I wasn't even keeping track." He said you had 269, and that was halftime. I was like, "What?"
Wow.
And he said, "Hey, just go for the record." So it was like it was something that was a dream, but it was something that was destined to happen, and I was the one that was going to make it happen.
Yeah, and I tell you what's amazing with it is it's 8 catches. I mean, it was only
Eight ball,
8 catches. He had an
yes,
84-yard touchdown, 56-yard touchdown. I don't know how much you follow the Cowboys. It gave me shades of Randy Moss what he did to us on Thanksgiving Day. It was similar,
yeah.
but you doubled that up. So you
I
took it a step
doubled that
further.
up. Yes, yes. And you look at it and you go like, man, I mean, and that was only 8 balls, but the guys that actually end up breaking my record, they caught a whole bunch more balls.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I was like, wow. And actually, Flipper got an extra quarter. So, you can kind of, with Calvin's, I said, okay, Calvin, you caught more balls, but with Flipper, he got a whole nother quarter.
yeah.
So we're going to put an asterisk by his. And, I say, if you want to really look at it, I put the work in quick. Mine came real quick because I got big amounts of yards quick when I had less attempts.
Yeah.
And obviously, the game was beginning. They were throwing the ball a lot more than we threw the ball. So it had to happen. Somebody, and I'm surprised. Here it is in 2023 that it hadn't been broken again because it's a pass heavy league.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
you were in a run heavy one, so I just imagine what you'd be
Yes.
doing in this league where
Yes.
you can't get jammed and these defensive backs can't touch you. You'd be having a field day.
And you give me this kid named Patrick Mahomes. Oh, that'll help a little bit too.
Well, that's something that we definitely want to talk about. One thing that was interesting, Kansas City had a rough, your early years were pretty rough, and then
Oh
with
yeah.
the team,
Oh yeah.
you get Marty
Yeah.
Schottenheimer, there. And I was looking at his coaching staff, and you're talking
Yeah.
about Bill Cowher, Bruce Arians, and Tony Dungy on that
Yeah.
coaching staff. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Just
Yes, I must say we had a nice staff that Marty put together. And I tell you what, this staff was, I mean, the culture changed once Marty came in and he did what he did. He surrounded us with, and we had Carl Peterson come in as our new GM and he changed some things around. And I tell you what, Lamar Hunt said he was ready to just change the culture. And he did that when he brought in Marty.
yeah. And who was your biggest? Who did you guys hate the most?
Now you know I'm gonna say the Raiders, right?
Hey, oh yeah.
All right.
You know the Raiders. If anything, we got to make sure that those Raiders are handled, and we made sure we took care of the Raiders. So they don't. We didn't have a good relationship, but I tell you what, Raider Week, it was all about we taking down the Raiders, and it didn't matter where or when, at their place or back at our house, whatever's gonna happen. We're gonna make sure that they wasn't gonna come to the Chiefs Stadium, and they wasn't gonna. And then when we went to, actually at that time they were the LA Raiders, and we go down to the Coliseum and we took care of business there. So the Raiders knew that when the Chiefs were gonna come in, it was gonna be a tough battle, and we knew when the Raiders came in, it's gonna be a tough battle. But we knew, we had confidence that we had that thing in their heads that we cannot beat these guys no matter what we do. With Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson, they doubled up everything they tried to do. They just couldn't get it done. So I think Al Davis probably said he probably was trying to figure out a way that he could probably beat us, but he couldn't figure it out either.
No, you guys, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And talking
Yeah.
about, that season, 11-5, you get to the playoffs. I think you guys lost a heartbreaker to Miami. I was growing up in South
We
Florida,
did.
so I think it was in Miami. It was
Oh,
like 17-16
yeah.
or something like that.
Yes, I mean, I tell you what, you talking about getting close. We got that one. The next week we got Buffalo for the championship game. See how close it is. That's why I say it's in this league, it's so tough to win, and you got to win now because you don't know when you're going to get back. And I tell you what, man, we had these guys down, and Dan Marino, they had a great one. So I'm not going to say, but they had a great guy named Dan Marino.
Yeah.
That he got the ball back, and he was able to drive down the field, and they ended up kicking a whip. They kicked the field goal, and they beat us and sent us packing. That was a game that we had all the momentum. We were running, and the play action was working. Steve DeBerg was on, and I tell you what, we didn't play 60 minutes. It wasn't enough because we still had time on the clock, which it was 3 minutes, whatever Dan needed to work with. He drove them down the field and got them in the field position, and we weren't able to recover after that. So, you know what, that was a heartbreaker. And after that, we never got closer than that, but we always was consistent when Marty came in. We would always get in the playoffs. And we didn't go to first round. We at least got to the second round. And if we struggled, it was after that second round. So, you know what? Like I said, NFL is tough to win games and to put streaks together. Teams that do that and they do it at the right time, they get rewarded in the postseason. And just like the Chiefs and the Eagles are doing right now, they're rewarded because they were able to sustain and put together win streaks when other teams weren't able to do it. And this made the difference, especially when you get to those championship games. You're trying to shoot for home field advantage, be that one seed. If you can hold that one seed, you got a chance. And the Chiefs have actually been able to do that for a pat. It's crazy. It's crazy. But here we are again talking about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, so speaking of great quarterbacks, guys like Dan Marino, I mean, you guys got one heck of a quarterback. I had the privilege of watching him play. I was a Texas Tech season ticket holder for many years, and I watched Patrick Mahomes for Texas Tech. I knew right away that he was something special. I mean, there was this play in spring training, and he just kind of flick of the wrist from about the 35-yard line and got it to the other end zone. And I'm just sitting here going, how did he do that? I mean, the guy is amazing. And it's just, when you watch him play, he's one of those guys that I feel like every time you're going to be in this game. I mean, what can you say about the kind of quarterback Patrick Mahomes is and what he's done for that Chiefs organization?
What he did right now, he solidified that. He said, don't worry about your quarterback position. It's solidified for the next 10 to 15 years. Let's just make sure we build it. We got a line built around it, protect me. If you can protect me, I'm going to produce for you. And I tell you what, he is definitely guys that bought in. He's a leader, and guys like playing with him, and he's exciting because you don't know what's about to happen. And defenses, they cannot stop covering because as soon as they think they got to cover, he springs out something. Maybe it's a crazy sidewinder he throws, or maybe he breaks and just runs. So he is, I'm going to tell you what, he's special, just like you said earlier when you saw him at Texas Tech. He has really got an arsenal of things that he can do. He's got the whole package as far as in the quarterback position. He can run, he can scramble, he can move around, he can create plays. That's what makes him special. When you got a guy like that, you better play 60 minutes because I talked about that thing with Dan Marino, and I talked about this thing with John Elway. I didn't talk about John Elway.
Yeah.
He was always a thorn on our side always because you can never get enough points with John Elway because it's the last time he hits the ball, that last possession, he can come back and beat you or do something to make the game close again. So I tell you what, I know they are really excited to have a guy like Patrick Mahomes because, you know, they always feel like they're in every ball game, and it makes the defense say, all we got to do is keep it close. If we can keep it close, we got a guy that can finish. He's a finisher.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing, even one of our in our chat, you know, he lost Tyreek Hill. I mean, he's got he doesn't have all the, you know, he's got Kelsey, of course, but he's got, you know, new receivers, and he hasn't skipped a beat. And I just think it says so much about him as a quarterback. But looking at it with the Eagles, so you're seeing this matchup. How do you feel? You know, the Kansas City offense is going to match up against that defense of Philadelphia because that's what they're, you know, that's what they're hanging their hat on is that defense.
You know what? I'm gonna put it the same way. You know, and I think what we need to do is do what we're doing. Is we want to do what we did in this championship game. We don't want to turn it over. We want to be consistent. We want to establish the running game, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that we keep these guys off balance. And we know that because of that, we gotta. It makes it interesting because we got two mobile quarterbacks going against each other.
Yeah.
And it's going to be exciting. But I tell you what, if our offensive line plays like they've been playing, I'm going to tell you what, we're going to be able to establish the running game early, and that's going to make it even better for Patrick Mahomes. And then at the same time, we need that defense to be stout like they were against Cincinnati. I want them to duplicate what they did in Cincinnati. If we got what I say, run it back.
Mm-hmm.
If we can run it back, what we did in Cincinnati, with that Cincinnati game and Arrowhead, that championship game, I'm 100% sure that this team is going to be very productive. It's going to be hard to stop them. At the same time, if they don't do the opposite of what they did in that championship game, it's going to be I'm not going to say it's going to be a easy one. It's going to be a little bit tougher.
Yeah, and you're talking to two Cowboy fans, so we need you to we need you to get in there and get pumped up. We need the Chiefs to give them a beat down because I don't want to hear about these Eagle fans.
Okay. Yeah. So. Yes.
Well, I know that you had you can only spare a few minutes, so you can only get a segment. Kelly, do you have one last question before we?
I got time. Yeah. Hey, I got about 5 minutes.
All right, 5 minutes. Yeah, perfect. All right, I appreciate
got 5 minutes.
Perfect, Kelly. Kelly, I'll let you ask a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say on just real quick on the other side of the ball, you're talking about we have another mobile quarterback. Well, just obviously we're not huge Philly fans, but I can respect what what Jalen Hurts has done in his second year. He had a lot of doubters coming into this, including myself. I didn't think he would be the guy that could do what he's done with this Philadelphia Eagles offense. Yeah. What do you accredit that to? Do you think it's just a leap that he's taken? Do you think it's the system around him, the players they put around him? What have you seen from Jalen Hurts that's kind of stood out to you this year?
Two things. The biggest thing is the organization, starting with the owner and the head coach had confidence in him that he was the guy, and he made some mistakes earlier because being young and not really missing some things and things moving so fast, and having a coach that was saying, hey, I'm going to stay with this guy. I believe in you. And it did everything because I look back and I rooted for this guy when he was at Alabama and what happened with him and Tua and what Saban kind of said, okay, you want to leave, go. And he went to where did he go? He went to Oklahoma. Yeah. And what he did, I said, no, with this kid, he's going to do something special. And I just said he just needed an opportunity to prove himself. And if he can get you to believe, if I can get you to believe in what I'm doing by my play, not by what I'm talking, you know what? He's on this way. He's going to be one that we're going to be talking about him for just like we're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and the kid from the Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be talking. He's right up there with these guys.
Yeah.
So I believe that now he's got that confidence. He's got that swag, and now he believes. Who thought? He's probably going like, now, who thought now after how it started? It's like folks was giving up on me. I'm glad they did. But here I am now. Now they got my name on one of the guys that could actually be the MVP. How about that?
No,
So that right there, it kind of gives you it gives you a little something to say. You know what? I'm glad they didn't give up on me. I'm glad I didn't give up on me also because it was all on me because I could have quit because everybody said I couldn't do it.
yeah. Yeah, and I tell you, it's tough that he's an Eagle because I was a Jalen Hurts, still a fan of him. I think he's a great person.
Yeah.
I love the story in Alabama. I felt the same way with him, and
Oh yeah.
and then getting to Oklahoma. So yeah, I wish he
Yeah.
was on a different team, unfortunately. But you know how
Yeah.
it is. Just like if he was a Raider, you'd have to feel the same way. So I just want to pick your brain because it seems like you're just in tune with the current game. And get one last question in. Of course, it's got to be
Okay.
about the Cowboys. Dak Prescott.
All right.
You're seeing all this
man.
stuff about him, and I think he gets a lot of criticism, maybe
Too
so
bad.
deserved. But what's your thoughts on Dak Prescott as a quarterback?
You know what? The question, my question, and I'm sure everybody's been talking about outside, and Jerry has to see it. It's consistency, and you don't. It's kind of like you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what are we going to get this week? Next week, we might get to and then my wife was saying, we was talking about this, watching them play, and that was that game. They played very well.
In Tampa.
And we said, we never seen this Dak here. I mean, he was on fire. Then who is this Dak? And I said, the thing is, who's going to show up next week in San Francisco? Who shows up? It wasn't Dak. I said, Dak must have stayed in Dallas or on the plane. I said, well, look, send somebody that looks like me put my jersey on. You know what I'm saying? And it's just that consistency thing that's the biggest question mark. It's been, can you know what? You watch the good ones. You watch Mahomes put a streak together of 6-7 games. And you might have some little struggles in between, but he find a way to overcome it. But sometimes Dak can throw one interception, it can turn into 2 or 3, and then kind of everything falls apart. Yeah. And when that happens, I mean, it's pretty much written on the wall that man, it's going to be one of them days. It's going to be one of those days where Dak's really not going to be the Dak that we saw last week. So it's a consistent thing, and I'm sure they got to address it and say, hey, this is our guy. But what do we need to do to fix this thing? Can it be fixed? Or what do? Do you bring somebody else in and say we need somebody else in to push him?
Yeah.
So I that's how I would look at it. I mean, from my standpoint.
It's tough because to your point, I think, Kelly, you could probably attest. We watched a Cowboy game within the first 10, 15 minutes. We pretty much know what we're in for. And that's been the problem. Is that fixable? I mean, is that something like now you got McCarthy in there and you're changing coordinators, you're going to get him in a different system because he's shown the ability. Is that something that can be coached?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to tell you this too. The coaches coach, players play. Coach gets us ready. But we know what? It's on us to get the reads right, to get everything, the timing and everything. So it's on us. I mean, I can't put it on the coach. His job is to coach and lay out the game plan. Our job is to execute the game plan. Yeah. And if we have problems and we can't execute the game plan, that's on us. Yeah. So I guess we can answer it that way and say it's on Dak to execute the game plan and to be specific about it. Hey, what I did last week, I can't come and do that next week because this game is bigger than last week. It can cost us, and that can stop us from getting where we want to get.
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, it's on the player.
He's got to get there, and
got to get there.
Kelly, you got one last question, and we'll.
You got one more, Kelly, because my wife is right here saying, "Come on."
Well, no, I just, I guess the last thing I can get, obviously, I feel like you're a Chiefs guy. You're riding with your Chiefs. You got a score prediction for us here going into the Super Bowl. What do you think how you think is it to shake out?
You know what? I'm gonna go 20. I'm gonna go 27-23.
And of course,
27-23.
Of course,
Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Beautiful.
Chiefs. Wow. All right. Well, let's go Chiefs.
I'm hoping
man.
that happens.
Yeah. Me too.
Hey, that's it. That means we gotta score. That means we gotta score a couple extra ones. That defense got to make that stand and just keep them out of the end zone.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for jumping on. I know you had to. You got so many things going on. I'd love to have you. I would love to have. I would love to have you on our show and just talk about your career because I think it's great. So I'll be in touch with you, and if there's a time that works during the summer, maybe we can definitely get together.
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm open. Let's do it. Let me know when we can do it.
Okay. Perfect. I appreciate it, sir.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, guys. Coach Team.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was a good little treat, huh?
Good guy, good interview, man. I like the knowledge. He had a lot of knowledge that he was dropping on us right there.
Right. Yeah.
know,
And he fits our show. He's got some energy.
He
So,
does.
you know,
I like
he'll
it.
fit with us.
Yeah, bringing the energy to the Cowboys cave. That's what we like to see. I like what he said about, the players got to play. The coaches just get them ready. I couldn't agree with that more, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think, what we did, the route that we're going, I think it was time for a change with the whole Kellen Moore situation. But regardless of who the coach is, he's 100% correct when it comes to Dak. We have to see the consistency. That's where things got to change with Dak as a quarterback, is that consistent play week in and week out. But at the same time, I do think that we can do a better job of putting the pieces around him to make sure he can be consistent. But yeah, I mean, he made some really good points in that, and I like what he said about Dak as a quarterback, and I couldn't disagree with any of those points.
No, and I think